What's up, guys? Michael here. I just wanted to come on and introduce myself. Today we're going to be looking at why Dark Souls 2 is actually the greatest game ever created. Most people like to talk about how Dark Souls 2 is bad. The game is just designed poorly. Bullshit just kills you randomly. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. Most people walk into Dark Souls 2 thinking that it's going to be like Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 3. Now, again, I have to reiterate, I've never played Dark Souls 2, but based off of what I've seen, I have to tell you guys, this is one of the best video games ever created. We're talking one of the games that pioneered the Souls landscape. We're talking one of the games that has brought so many people countless joy. Now, some people like to complain about level design, enemy design, how most enemies are frustrating, like the Lion Clan Warrior, the Great Poison Brummer, the Morgrel Rat, the Drake Keeper, shit like that. I'm not worried about how frustrated enemies can get. It's a video game. There has to be some challenges along the way. While I know some of the bosses are kind of lazy, some might be easy, some might be hard, but then again, it's Dark Souls 2. We're talking about why Dark Souls 2 is one of the greatest games ever. Now, you might be thinking, well, Michael, Dark Souls 2 is shit compared to 3 and 1. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it is not. Now, the reasons I'm giving is, they're super valid. They're super, non-biased. Then again, I've never played the game, but based off of what I'm seeing, I've seen games that have come and gone. I've seen games that have sit and just been the dark horse in the series. Now, Dark Souls 2 is actually not one of those games. I feel like they should have remade 2 over 1. Why? Because 2 has better enemies, better level design, it incorporates better world building, better story. It's literally one of the best games ever. The DLC is great. It's one of the most ethereal in the series. When you look at the backgrounds and you look at everything that's just there, it just gives you so much. Honestly, the combat is one of the best things in the game too. Then again, I still haven't played the game, but from what I've seen, the combat is actually fucking amazing. Now, if you take the time and look at everything that's going on the screen, I could tell you there is some shit for everybody in this game. If you're an RPG fan, well, there you go, it's an RPG. Well, if you're a fan of ridiculous shit that can kill you in an instant, boom, there you go, it has it. It's a Dark Souls game. I don't know why everybody's coming into this being oh, the game's too hard, It's a Dark Souls game. The reason they're made is for them to be hard. Now, fucking take the cock out your ass and fucking play the game. It's seriously one of the best experiences you will ever have as a Dark Souls fan. You don't even have to be a Dark Souls fan. This is just one of the best games ever. You just have to go into it with an open mind, and I am fucking telling you, you will come out of it satisfied. Again, I've never played the game, but from what I've heard, it is the best Dark Souls game in the series. Fuck 1 and fuck 3. Who cares? 3 is a mess. 1 is also a mess. 1 has bullshit that will kill you in the same way as Dark Souls 2. I think Dark Souls 2 is better than 1, and I don't get why people have to fucking bitch and moan when Dark Souls 2 is brought up. Dark Souls 2 is actually better than Dark Souls 1. Again, I've never played either game, but I'm saying Dark Souls 2 is better from a gameplay standpoint, from a graphic standpoint. Dark Souls 2 is just a better game. Now, when we get into logistics and other things like that, we're looking at a game that has a solid fucking platform. We're talking about a Souls game here. I don't think they've ever made a Souls game that hasn't been rendered well, that hasn't had anything like majorly wrong with it. We're talking about a graphically strong game with strong combat, strong everything. Like, the engine they use to make Souls games aren't bad, but there can be some issues with them, like in Dark Souls 1 and 3. 2, I haven't seen any issues in 2. Why? Because 2 is the perfect Dark Souls game. It has everything for everybody. Honestly, like, it's just the best. When people think, oh, I'm going to go into the Dark Souls series, what game should I start with? I always recommend 2. Now, again, I have never played Dark Souls 2, but I can guarantee if I recommend it to you, you will play it and you will have a fucking fantastic time. So that's when people come to my channel and ask, hey, Michael, do you have any familiarity with the Dark Souls series? What game should I start with? I'm kind of nervous coming into it. I always give them Dark Souls 2 because it is the most fluent. It is the most easy to pick up and just go. Again, I've never played Dark Souls 2. This is just going off of what I've heard. But it seems like it is the best game out of this series. I'm talking a 10 out of 10 rating right here. Now, these game reviewers, quote, have been paid off to say that the game has been bad by these other companies who are just trying to get their game a higher rating because they know that Dark Souls 2 is actually a fucking great game. So this game has almost built a little cult classic, group around it. And the outside world sees it as some piece of shit because that's what everybody else says. You know what? It's time to stand up and, not listen to the fucking masses for once and be a true gamer and experience everything to the fullest. That's why I have to say Dark Souls 2 is the reason I continue playing video games.